And we hot.
Back in the studio.
Yeah, and that sun is right in my eyes.
Because you don't know what it
I'm
is.
gonna lean back. I know. Well,
I mean,
you know, right after we talked this morning, it come a cracking thunderstorm down there. I mean, it poured rain for 2 or 3 hours.
I believe that was the same system. It just kept pushing south.
But I watched the weather this morning, and it wasn't supposed to come no further than about Coleman Line, and it was going to be gone. But
drift off.
You know what? Them AI weathermen just didn't have that one figured out.
Nope.
So, but come September, just like well, no, it wasn't you. It was my other buddy. I texted him. I said, "Is it ever going to quit raining?" He said, "The day you plant the green fields."
Yeah, or when you're getting close, trying to plant them. Yeah.
He said, "When you put the seed in the ground, you'll never see it won't rain again." I said, "You're probably right."
If a man went and put some in a couple weekends ago where we had 2 or 3 dry days, he'd probably have some nice little summer green fields right now.
Oh, yeah. It'd be fine.
But for the biggest part, the guys that put them in the ground, if they didn't drill them, them seed washed off.
Oh.
We've had some gully washers.
Man, it was so bad. They were flooded out in front of the shop down there. There's a low place, a couple of places. And I don't know why them idiots in them little teeny tiny cars think they go through them. Them 18-wheelers can go through them.
Yeah.
I guess they just think they're just as good, but when it washes up over their hood, then they're in trouble.
Well, what are we, about 3 weeks away from the Deer Expo?
Yeah. July 11th. When it
12th,
starts.
13th.
You going to be down there Friday night, or what's your plan?
I'll be down there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
I'll probably swing by then when I get off work.
Yeah. I don't even know what time it starts Friday.
I don't either.
I figure I'll be going in with the vendors, so it won't matter when I get down there.
William will let you know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was thinking about going up to Illinois next weekend and hang out with William, but I think they've changed the plans.
Oh, they're not going to the bow shoot?
No, that got canceled already, but then I think just trying to get ready for the deer show, I think they're going to go ahead and push that date in till after the deer show.
Oh, okay.
He just had so much going on, getting prep for it. And because I was thinking, man, if it's pretty all this week, I may work all next weekend. Mm-hmm. I figure you'll be going to Dallas County if it stays pretty.
I hope.
They are giving 60% chance of thunderstorms for next Friday, but a lot can change in a week, so we'll see.
I don't. Right now, I think they're just playing roulette, and they know it's going to rain, so they're just going to say it'll rain, and that, you know.
Well, the farmers are putting hay on the ground right now. When I was coming over,
well, they know they got 3 or 4 or 5 days of dry weather.
I know last time we had 3 or 4 days, man, they put it down. They cut all night.
They've done so much. They ain't even picked up in a bunch of these fields. They bailed so much.
Well, it's because it was wet. They was afraid to catch the barns on fire. You know, so much moisture. So
I guess only ones that can do that. I guess it does the shrink wrap, the wrap them. They do it green. They roll them up.
They do
green.
the haylage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but it's weird. They usually only do that like on the first cutting, and then all the rest of it's just regular hay. I don't know what the deal is.
Maybe that fresh.
Maybe it's because of the moisture content. Yeah, I don't know. They got plenty of moisture content right now.
Listen, I ain't no cattle farmer or cattle rancher or whatever you want to call them. I don't know nothing about. All I know is I used to throw them 70-pound bales and up on a truck and stack them in a barn.
I'm thankful for the farmers.
Oh.
Because I sure do like to eat beef and vegetables. So.
And I've been eating fresh dug taters almost every day this week.
Ain't nothing better than them little red taters.
Huh.
Good Lord.
You remind me, I'll give you a few, carry home with you.
I brought you smoked bologna. We'll barter. We'll barter.
I may have some squash in there too. I don't know.
We'll barter. I need to get down there and cut that tree for your old man. While he's got that garden rolling, I might get me some tomatoes from him down there.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. It's been so rainy. The tomatoes, they green, but by the time they want to ripen, they done rotting and splitting.
Well, you know,
if you like fried greenings, I'll bring you a whole bag of them.
I was looking at that corn, man, you've been watching grow at Danville. I come through there today, and I believe, it was so pretty. It was already starting to toss from the. I believe the rain's affected. I'm not seeing any. It's like the actual corn hasn't grown any. It's kind of weird. Stalks are huge. They're probably 7 foot tall.
Well,
we've had the rain.
We've had it, and we're gonna have something tonight. Listen, we go in a little different direction. I don't know if we're branching out on something we probably never done before. I don't really know how it'll turn out. We having a fellow on He's a little controversial, to say the least. Some people love his humor. Some people hate it.
Some people don't get it.
Some people don't get that it's humor and believes that it's real, including apparently the Mississippi Department of Wildlife and Fisheries, because he got in some big time trouble with them. We're not going to talk too much about that tonight with him, but we're going to talk about him, what he's doing, where he got, how he got to where he was, and that kind of thing. If we can keep him on track.
I just can't stand when somebody goes down a rabbit hole.
Well, I know.
Oh,
I know.
we probably should have called this podcast. Our actual podcast name should have had something to do with the rabbit hole. It should have
been a rabbit hole, yeah.
The rabbit
hole. I believe that would have been a good one.
Your daddy would have liked that.
Oh, he would have.
A big rabbit hunter there. We need to get him on here sometime, talk rabbit hunting.
We will. I'll get him up here one day.
I bet he's got some old school stuff on training rabbit dogs that these new boys they know nothing about.
But are you just trying to avoid who we're going to talk to tonight?
No, it's a rabbit hole. Got thinking about it.
Well, we're going to have Carl Ray Hollifield on tonight. We're going to get his story hopefully from birth to today. And hopefully it won't be 9 hours. I told him we'd only keep him about an hour. But when we were just talking about it the other night, we was on the phone for an hour and a half. So he's a real interesting guy. Like I said, he's a little controversial. I don't know. You may agree with him. You may not agree with him. You may see a different side of him tonight. So anyway, I think we'll give him a call here in a minute and get him on the line. What do you think?
Yeah. Get him. Let's see what he's got to say today.
All right. Well, hang on, folks. All right. I believe we got old Carl Ray on the line. You with us, Carl? Carl Ray? I guess you go by Carl Ray.
Here. That's right.
Okay. I see it all the time, but we recorded a little opening, kind of telling everybody what we was doing tonight. So,
oh yeah,
I'm just happy you're here. I got my buddy Dustin. He'll be popping in here and there, but
that's
right
good.
now the sun's shining right in his eyes. We get in my little shed studio. You got your room. I got a shed. What we're in. So
well, we're in a trailer, but I've planted over 100 trees, so we pretty much good.
Yeah, sounds like it. Well, I live on a lake over here, so I ain't got no trees between me and the lake. I got a hill. About another 10, 15 minutes, the sun will be behind the trees, so Dustin will be able to at least look my way. But anyway, what we wanted to do tonight was, just have a conversation with you and talk about you, where you came from, how you raised. I think everybody kind of knows the other story, and we'll touch on that too. But tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us where you grew up, and just a little bio.
Well, I grew up right here in Jones County, along Bogahoma Creek. Our driveway was a mile long. It wasn't nothing but an old dirt trail. My granddaddy built back in there in the late 30s. We had you could stand on my front porch any given day of spring, a week before season, and you were going to hear birds gobbling in every direction but one any given spring. And our 60 acres, it bordered thousands of acres of timber company land. So we never had to leave home to hunt. You just hit the swamp, you'd walk that creek, you'd walk in log roads, you'd walk for miles and miles till you got tired, but you just remember you had to walk back home. And so we killed pretty much what we wanted to kill from opening day of squirrel season. I mean, opening day of squirrel season, that was a ritual for us. I mean, our whole home, our house was filled, every room was filled with the smell of gunpowder, because everybody's oiling their guns. Daddy oiling his gun. Everybody in my family, we oiling our guns, whether it was a 22 or a Remington 1100. We are so primed up for the opening day of squirrel season because back in those days, opening day of squirrel season, that was that meant something. That was the beginning of hunting season, and we celebrated that. And we celebrated that by not sleeping, not one wink. You'd think it was opening day of deer season, opening day of squirrel season back in the 70s and 80s. It was a way of life. We had waited for this all year. It was just a way of life. It was the Holyfield tradition, and we all hunted.
Did y'all hunt with dogs? You still hunt, or how'd y'all hunt them?
Was opening day of squirrel season, of course, squirrel season, we still hunted. We'd walk them log roads, and we knew where the den trees were. We knew where the beech trees were on the side of the hills above the beaver ponds. We'd get on them log roads, and we'd find us a hickory nut tree on the side of a hill, and we'd wait for the squirrels to come from the den trees to the beech nut trees. Me personally, I'd wait for 3 or 4 of them to get up in that beech nut tree and start chasing each other around. And I knew they had no escape outlet other than jumping for their lives. So I'd take that 20 gauge 1100 and I'd fold 1 or 2 up, and other ones would go to running down the tree and trying to escape. They never made it.
So y'all always had you ate squirrel. You had squirrel that night.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever we killed, we ate. It was a way of life. We didn't go to town much. We lived off the land. In the summer months, spring and the summer months, we lived off bass fillets. We eat fish.
Yep.
And we in the springtime was eating turkey nuggets and fish. But in squirrel season was just a special time for us. We would all gather around Grandma's old fireplace, and from my uncles, my aunts, even my aunt and Aunt Mary June, they all fished and they hunted. We'd go to Grandma's and we would gather there. The opening morning of squirrel season, Daddy and my uncles, we'd meet up at 2:00 in the morning. And we'd sit around that old fireplace and listen to the crackling of the fire. And us kids, we would listen to the stories and the memories of yesteryear. Listen to our uncles tell the story of the buck they called Slewfoot, for example, the one that got away. And listen to all the many stories and the memories of yesteryear. And we were filled with such anticipation for the morning's hunt. My daddy, he would walk the floor. He'd walk circles. And my grandmother, she would say, Carl, they called him Big Carl. They called me Little Carl. That's how they, because I was named after my dad, of course. Mm-hmm. And she'd say, Carl, that's my grandmother talking. She'd say, Carl, you gonna walk a hole in that floor. He said, I can't help it, Ma. It ain't never gonna get daylight. That's what hunting was like back in the 80s. People don't realize that. I mean, this day and time, we're living a fast-paced world. Back in them days, time slowed down. And family and friends and the outdoors, that's what mattered. And I think we need to get back to that.
Yeah. It's changed so much from, back then. And you because you backed up the timber company land, you didn't lease it. You either had a permit in your pocket or they told you to go hunt it back in them days. Your neighbors didn't care if you hunted over there on their property. At least that's the way it was where I grew up.
And nobody leased the timber company land.
That's right.
It was mature hardwoods. It was mature hardwoods. And like I say, I would leave my house, and I learned in the early age. Daddy, he started off in squirrel season. He'd say, boy, he'd have an old cigarette in his mouth, that old Marlboro in his mouth, and he'd say, boy, you stay on this log road and you don't cross Bogahoma Creek and you won't get lost. Because if you're on this side of the creek, you got to follow the creek back north again, and you know where you to veer off at to head back home. And we had a night light in our yard, and there's so many. I mean, that night light was like my lighthouse light. The lighthouse, it navigated boats in and out of the harbor. That old night light, that was my refuge, and that's what I headed for when it got dark and I needed to get out of that swamp. I'd head for that old night light.
Well, that's memories. You just They stay with you, don't they?
Oh, yeah. And a lot of people don't get that. And a lot of people, I kind of feel sorry for them because they never got to experience that lifestyle growing up in the 70s and 80s when hunting and fishing was a way of life. It was a way of life.
You're right. It was. It was at my house. You know, we dove hunted. That was kind of our kickoff. Now, we didn't hunt maybe one or two weekends, and then, you know, it was squirrel season, just like you now. We didn't have, where I grew up, we didn't have no deer, so it was all small game. We went dove and then squirrel, and we rabbit hunted all winter long. Well, squirrel hunted, rabbit hunted, but my dad was a big rabbit hunter. But yes. do you have any brothers, sisters? You only child?
I have a brother and I have a brother and a sister. She's a fourth grade school teacher here in Jones County, and but like I say, we just come from a hunting family. All my uncles, all our family friends, that was the way of life. What did they talk about? They talked about hunting. They talked about fishing. They didn't sit around and talk about work all day. If they even spoke, it was about hunting or fishing. And like I say, just the many memories of Grandma's old fireplace, and those memories will be forever sketched and instilled in my memory, because that's happiness right there. If I want to go to the happy place, I go to Grandma's old fireplace and I sit there hours before daybreak on opening day of squirrel season, because that right there, my friend, that was life. And look, when our times come and we're dwindling down and we're laying there in that old hospital bed, and what's gonna matter? The memories of yesteryear. That's what really matters. And us kids, we'd sit there and we'd listen to the many stories of yesteryear, of my uncles, my dad, my close family friends. We were all headed to the swamp. An hour before daybreak on opening day of squirrel season, we was down that log road, just filled with such anticipation, like a kid this day and time. They're waiting for Christmas morning. Opening day of squirrel season was Christmas morning, my friend.
Oh, yeah. And it was that way for a lot of people. And like you said back then, and I'm 60 years old. I believe you're what? You 50, 51, somewhere in there?
I'm only 51. You got me.
I got you by a few years. Hell, it seems like I got everybody by a few years now, but you're exactly right. I mean, I remember, you know, anticipating that opening day, and just couldn't wait till I was old enough to actually get to tote a gun. I got to go, but I think I was probably about 11 before Daddy ever let me tote a gun in. Right. I got to shoot guns. I don't know how old you was when you got to do all that, but that's.
Yeah, that's a good age. Yeah. But we were, 9, 10 years old, but we had been around our dad so much, so they trusted us. And Daddy knew. He knew it. Opening day of squirrel season, you got your first migratory wood ducks coming in, plus your resident wood ducks. Daddy, he said, "Where you gonna go, boy?" I said, "I'm gonna go down to the beaver pond." He knew what I had in my mind, because he knew that come break of day, those first migratory wood ducks, they fixing to head from that beaver pond, and they headed for the creek. And I didn't let them get to the creek. And there's been many a morning, my opening day of squirrel season, I got a Drake wood duck in my hand, or 2 or 3. And then I would head for the old logging roads, and I'd find them old beech nut. I'd head for the hickory nut trees, wait for the squirrels to come out of their dens, and old beech nuts that grew on the side of those huge hills which overlook Oklahoma Swamp. And like I say, I would wait for 3 or 4 of them to get up there and get relaxed, start chasing each other. And they usually didn't leave. If 4 entered the tree, they didn't leave. The last one might bail out and jump out like a bat, But I can sometimes get him in the air. If I didn't, when he hit the ground, that old 20 gauge 1100 roll him up.
Yep.
Those were the 1100s.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I didn't have. My dad had 1100. I had an 870. Well, actually, I started with, and I still got both of them, but I started with a Stevens little 20 gauge single barrel. So
I think mine was a New England 20 gauge or something.
yeah, it was always
Single.
Right.
But,
right. But all those older guns, whether it was the Remington 1100, 870 Wingmaster, they didn't have screw-in chokes.
No,
So
you changed barrels.
Yeah, I always loved the full choke. Everybody wanted a full choke, and it was a made-in full choke. And when I say made-in, it was a tapered barrel. Mm-hmm. It tapered down to a full choke, and that was some of the best shooting guns you could buy. I mean, those tapered barrels. I mean, a full choke, Remington 1100 or the Wingmaster, they would shoot pretty much any shell to perfection. And the point of aim on those guns were uncanny. I mean, if you put that bead on him, your full load is hitting wherever you're aiming.
Oh yeah, especially if you're shooting a full choke.
But yeah, that's how we grew up. But like I say, dove season, I mean, we'd fish all summer, and as we fished, we were watching doves fly over, and we fished all summer bass fish, these ponds, farm ponds. And, well, as August approached, about the middle of August, our attentions, they would start turning to doves. I mean, but we were still fishing. We was going to bass fish up till dove season, even though our attention was on doves at that point. And opening day of dove season, that was a big deal, a really big deal. And back in those days, you had a lot of farmers, a lot of folks who opened their land up to the public. You'd pay $10 and you were hunting. You had a dove field for $10 because all they would do was go in there and they would cut 50, 75, 100 acres of goat weed. It didn't cost them anything. They had to cut that goat weed anyway. But when they cut that goat weed, buddy, let me tell you, the doves were flocking in there in huge numbers. And you don't see that anymore. This day and time, you don't see public dove fields where you pay to hunt. And it's all because, I think, a liability. Everybody started suing everybody on every little thing. Back in those days, you didn't sue people.
No.
I mean, you hunted. You had public fishing ponds. You had honor boxes. You would drop your $1 or $2 in there, and you'd go fishing. Times have changed so much. And it's because people are changing. Our mindsets are changing. We need to get back to the basics. We need to get back to the old days. And if people would just realize what really matters in life, and that's family, friends, God, and the outdoors, that's what really matters. People don't get together on Sundays anymore and eat chicken. That's the problem. When we got away from getting together on Sundays and eating chicken, frying chicken on Sundays, everyone getting together, that's in my opinion, when everything started going downhill. And the fast-paced world we're living in doesn't allow us to always get together. Everyone's on different schedules. I mean, you got 3 or 4 schedules. Everybody's working. But when families stopped getting together on Sunday, that was the game changer. That's when I started seeing a difference in everything. I mean, families need to get together. They need to have cookouts every Sunday. I mean, you don't see that anymore.
Oh, no. That's some of my fondest memories was on Sundays. We go to my granny's house. I live by one grandmother, so I eat with her all the time. But we go down to my dad's mom. I called her Granny, and we get Granny and Pawpaw's. And just like you said, now my dad had 12 brothers and sisters. There's 13 of them. So not everybody showed up, every Sunday. But it was always, just like you said, fried chicken, pork chops, turnip greens. I mean, we ate. It was always a good time. Easter, all of us kids get together and
Take turns turning ice cream.
Oh yeah, man, there wasn't nothing like a good homemade ice cream when you didn't plug in that ice cream maker and you had to work for it. So.
Oh yeah, you were churning it.
Yeah.
But like I say, I couldn't wait to opening day of dove season because that was like a ritual. That was almost the beginning of it almost signaled the arrival of another hunting season.
Yeah.
And opening day of opening day of dove season, that's another time. Every room in that house, you might as well hold your breath if you don't hunt. Because every room is going to be filled with the smell of gun oil. All the 1100s and 870s. And we're going to oil them guns. And we're not going to sleep. We'll go back there and lay down about midnight, but you don't sleep.
Oh, no. Mm-mm.
Yep. That's like Pookie Poo just said. We've been together 26 years. And that's what she just said. She said, even when we first got together, she remembers it very well. We never slept. Like, we did not sleep. The night before dove season, that was a big deal.
Yep.
And Daddy, we didn't sit in chairs. We had 5-gallon buckets, and we'd carry our shells in them. And we'd dump them shells in them 5-gallon buckets, and we'd sit on them buckets, and that's how we dove hunted. And till this day, I got Daddy's old dove bucket, and I'll put it out in the field, and I'll put a box or two of shells in it. And people will look at it, and who's sitting over there? I said, nobody's sitting over there. That's Daddy. Daddy's sitting over there. I said, I put him under a shade tree, and to this day, I still do. I'll put that bucket and a couple of boxes of shells. I'll put it up under that shade tree, and that's Daddy's bucket. People don't get it. When people, if they didn't grow up hunting in that lifestyle, they don't get it. And I'm not hating on these people. I want to teach these people, and I want to get them involved and let them know that, hey, hunting keeps families together. You get them involved in hunting and you get them addicted to hunting, that's going to bring them back every dove season. That's going to bring them back every opening morning of squirrel season, deer season, turkey season. That keeps families together. And we have, as a society, we've grown so far away from this. And like, I get it. This world we're living in today is spinning so fast that we can't always be off. But if you can get the family members involved in hunting, that's going to bring them back every year, same time every year, and you can start your own family traditions.
Oh, yeah. Well, and like you said, there's so many new hunters. I call them new hunters. Or, you find a kid, or most of them's parents don't hunt these days, these young ones, because they, like you said, the world got busy. And
they're working all the time.
They're working all the time. So you've got these young folks out there that they don't have that tradition, and you've got to I agree with you. You got to get out there and show them what it's all about, and so they can start theirs, and hopefully. And I'd kind of lost faith in some of these kids my kids' age, but I think even the younger ones now, I see a difference in them. I think we're going to see a revival in a lot of this traditions. A lot of, I got a son that's 34, one that's 30, and now they was raised a little bit different. They didn't know nothing but hunting and fishing, but a lot of their buddies, they didn't know that, and they don't care about it. I seen that in other aspects of my kids' life, not hunting, but stuff that I would have, and I still treasure. They didn't think's very important. So it's very important to get them out and teach these younger people, and even some of the older ones. There's nothing wrong with a 40-year-old man that ain't never hunted. If he wants to hunt, all he's got to do is say the word to me, probably same to you. I'll take them out and show them. I don't know everything, but I guess I know more than they do, or they wouldn't be asking. So.
Well, I can tell you this. You get them out in the woods, like if you can start them young, if you get a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old out in the woods, and as he witnesses a daybreak on opening morning of turkey season, I mean, is he hears that barred owl, signal the arrival of spring. I mean, because barred owls, their mating season, it's the same as the wild turkey. I mean, they're mating in the spring. That old barred owl, he starts cutting up. Okay, you see that youngster's eyes light up. You know what he's waiting for? He's waiting for that thunderous gobble. And that really signifies the arrival of spring. And I've seen many kids, I mean, including myself, when I heard that first thunderous gobble on opening morning of turkey season, that lit that fire. And that fire will never burn out. You get them young kids out there, you light that fire is not going to burn out.
How old was you, Carl Ray, when you killed your first turkey or got to go turkey hunting?
Well, I killed turkeys in squirrel season. I'd kill gobblers in squirrel season. But
that's fall hunting.
1980,
yeah,
1980, and it didn't exist back then, but we ate them because that old log road led me home. It led me to that nightlight. I didn't have to travel. 1983, the reason I know when I called my first bird up, we got that old Polaroid. Mama had to take a picture. Daddy wasn't big on pictures. We didn't take pictures, but Mama took a Polaroid in 1983, the spring of 1983. I called my first bird up with an old jet link slate. We went to them railroad tracks, and I'm 51, so that put me. That was 83. I was born in 74. I was 9.
He was 9.
So
yeah, I was going to say,
I was
83. My birthday's in May, so that I didn't turkey hunt back then, but I'd have been 17. So yeah, that'd put you about 9.
And I can remember to this day, we'd pull up there to Vossburg, up under the old Vossburg Bridge at the old train depot. Used to be a train depot way back in the day. We'd park there. Old black man let us park on his land. He didn't have about an acre. But we'd hit them railroad tracks, and we'd walk down there. We'd walk miles, them old fields, huge fields. And there was a gas line running through there. And Daddy said, if you want to, you sit right here on the side of this hill right here on this gas line, and I'm going to go on toward this pumping station. And he said, I saw some jakes here yesterday. I said, okay. Well, I had no longer sat down. Daddy got over the hill. I hit that old jet slate, and I heard a thunderous gobble. And them leaves was crunching. Sound like a human. Well, I'm still a young kid, and it wasn't registering in my mind if someone was walking through them woods. I didn't know if Daddy had doubled back or what. I stood up. I stand up. Even though the turkey gobbled, I knew it was a turkey. I knew it, even though he gobbled, I stand up, turn around, and I see that old red head running the other direction. Not really fast, but he's 20, 25 yards away. I roll him up. I go grab him, and I can remember to this day how big those spurs were. We didn't measure spurs back then, but it was a huge gobbler. I mean, and I went and picked him up, and I sat there, and and I looked at him. Did Daddy come back through at dark? Daddy said, boy, did you hear anything? Because Daddy, he couldn't hear me shoot for that old pumping station. And I said, I got one. And Daddy, he was proud. He was happy. He was smiling. He said, dang, what some spurs. He said, that's a fine, and look what a beard on that bird. Well, I'm trying to tote the bird out. I towed him a little bit. Daddy grabbed him. He said, you just tote the guns. Because we got like a 1.5 mile, 2 mile walk. Daddy, he's smoking them on Marlboro, sucking them down. He was happy. We got back up there to the truck, and I can remember the hooks on that on that bird. I can remember the hooks. We didn't measure hooks back then. And there's no doubt in my mind that someone, whether it was Daddy, my uncles, or some old timer in the early 80s, late 80s, somebody killed a state record spur in the state of Mississippi, down here in Jones County, Jasper County, Clark County. Well, Someone killed a record bird. They didn't cut spurs off back in them days. All they said was, look what a beard on that bird. That son of a gun had a beard on him. That's what you heard. And there's no doubt in my mind that a state record hook was killed in the 80s by some old timer. That, because I can remember the birds that my dad killed, and they were huge, some huge spurs. They didn't keep them. They didn't keep spurs. They kept in beards. That's just the way it was back in. And we ate that bird that night. And they wouldn't get no bird mounted at Carl Ray's house, at Daddy's house. You didn't mount a bird. That bird's, we fixing to eat him. When you killed a bird, we gonna eat turkey that night. And I just grew up. I was fortunate enough to grow up in that lifestyle with all my uncles, even my aunt, and family friends. We all hunted, and that's all we talked about. I was at today, for example, me and my wife, we were at a restaurant eating, and I could listen to conversations that people were having. It wasn't about hunting. I mean, it was about just this and that. It wasn't about hunting. People have put hunting way down on the list. I mean, hunting was a lifestyle back then. Whether it was springtime white beetle spin with a red dot on them old Bogahoma Creek banks, on them turn holes, catching them red bellies and catching them goggle eye, catching them little old creek bass, it's all changed now. You can listen to what people are talking about and whispering about at lunchtime, and it's about work, and it's not about hunting. Times have changed.
Oh, most definitely. I kid one of my. I got two brothers. I'm the oldest. My youngest brother, though, he loves to talk about work, and he will. My middle brother, he'll stop him sometime and go, "Hold on now." He said, "If we're going to work, I'm going to clock in, because if I'm going to have to sit here and listen to it, I won't pay for it."
Hey, but if you think about it in the long run, the people that sit around and talk about work, they do really good for themselves.
They do. He's a good guy. He's a machinist. He just likes it.
Right. Right. And he's into it, and he knows that's what's going to provide
now
for his
he's
family.
not a big hunter now. He's a big fisherman. He lives on a little private, he calls it a lake. It's just a giant pond to me. I mean, you couldn't run a motor in it, but he crappie fishes and catches them bass, and he's just like you now. He caught one. That was probably a lake record he caught a couple years ago, and my brother tried. You need to mount that fish. He said, I'm going to mount it. I'm going to mount it in a pan of grease. And he filleted that baby out and ate it. So that's
the same. So that's the same way I grew up. Daddy, we'd fish in old farm ponds, and they might be 10 acres. They might be a big farm pond, 20, 25 acres. But back in them days, you paid $1 to $3 to $5 to fish. We'd go out there and we'd sit in that flat bottom aluminum boat, and that sun, it gets so hot, and you sitting on that aluminum boat just burning up, just sitting flat bottom. We didn't have seats. Daddy had that little trolling motor. I finally talked him into getting a trolling motor in the late 80s. Before that, we paddled. And but we'd get out there and we'd get out there in that deeper water later in the day, and we'd fish with them 10-inch black culprit worms, and we'd fish for hours before we got a bite. But when we got a bite, it was a good one. It was a 5 to 7 whatever pound bass, and we'd sit out there and it's just miserable. I mean, just miserable. But we had that love. I mean, we wanted to catch a bass so bad. We were in heaven. Anybody else, you take them out there and you set them out there for 5 or 6 hours in that hot sun, on that, sitting there with their butt on that aluminum boat, just scalding them. They gonna be miserable. They gonna want to go to the bank. I was in heaven. People don't live like that anymore.
No.
People have got away from that, and I don't know if it's because we have too many opportunities to do other things. Because back in them days, it was hunting and fishing. You didn't have all this other stuff. I mean, you couldn't run and do this and that and all these other hobbies. But I didn't want any other hobby. And to this day, I don't want any other hobby. I want to hunt and I want to fish. You know why? Because that's all I knew growing up. But I was fortunate enough to grow up in a place where, like I say, we had 60 acres of my grandpa's place. We lived a mile on a dead-end dirt road. You go out your back door, you hit that log road, you got thousands of acres. I mean, at your just go. You just walk and hunt. I mean, you use the creek as navigation. If you didn't know the woods, you stay along that creek. You go downstream, you know you got to come back up till you hit the log road and take a right and go to the house till you see the nightlight. And back in them days, we lived in a time where a man could actually get lost in the woods. I pray, this day and time, I pray that I could get lost in the woods. You're not going to get lost.
No.
You might think you're lost, but you let it get close to dark and all them night lights start coming on and you hear dogs barking and you hear people calling their cows. You can't get lost. I want to get lost. I want to go back to 1983 and get lost once again in Oklahoma Swamp where I hear no cows. I hear no cars. I don't hear no dogs barking. I don't see a nightlight. I want to get back to 1983 where we had vast expansions of wilderness, nothing but woods.
Well, I hate to say it, but I don't know if we'll ever get back to that. Not ever again.
We can't.
No,
No,
we've come too far. We crossed that line. And I guess.
And it's over.
Yep. And one of the things, go ahead.
But what we can do, you know how the glory days for us were in the 70s and the 80s? That was our glory days. These kids growing up this day and time, they didn't see that. They didn't witness that. So these small acreages they're hunting on, it might be 100 acres, 150 acres, whatever. That is their memories of yesteryear.
Yeah.
That's what they're going to be talking about. So we can't just sit around and say, well, we used to hunt all this and we had thousands of acres, because in that kid's eyes, when he hears his first gobble on opening morning of season and he hears that thunderous gobble, that, my friend, that's going to be instilled in his mind forever, and that's going to be etched. And that's going to be his memories of yesteryear. So we got to watch out, and we can't let it get to us. And we can't teach these kids, say, hey, we had all this to hunt and we had that, because right now, in this year we're living in, this is their glory days. So we got to look at it from that aspect. We got to get these kids involved. And if you can ever light that fire, and that fire is going to be lit or not from that first gobble, I can look into that kid's eyes, whether it's a young man or a young woman, and look, when that first thunderous gobble signals the arrival of yet another spring, that, my friend, that's going to tell you all you need to know. Either they're going to be addicted to turkey hunting or they're not, because you're going to see them eyes, they're going to be fully dilated.
That's right. That's right. Well, let's move up the ladder here. Let's get on. Let's talk about you and when you discovered, which a lot of people, and I tend to agree with it. So when you discovered social media, because I think it's a great thing, and it's also it's been a downfall just as much as it's helped people. I'm not going to deny that. People that don't even have a mentor or somebody take them hunting, they can pop a YouTube video and learn. But when did you first get find Facebook or whatever it was? I mean, that's mainly what most people got started in. I started long back with the bulletin board days when it was an old floppy you throwed in your computer and a dial-up modem.
Right.
But how long you been, I guess, into social media?
Probably since about,
I'm gonna say 8 or 9 years. Before that, 9 years at the most. Before that, I didn't have social media, but when I did get on it, it was new to me. So I can remember I grabbed an old bird and I grabbed him and there was a fence and I grabbed that bird by the feet and I said, what the hook gonna be? Come get me, rejects. And that kind of went out and like I noticed
So
a lot of folks through the hunt.
you were videoed with that and you I guess you posted it and it kind of went crazy.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean that's what got people to wanting to see you or maybe something clicked in you and said, hey, I can do this and have some fun and, you know.
Right. And that's how it pretty much went. And I was filming myself, you know, what the hook going to be? I said, I got you hooks. And like I say, I've not been on social media very long, 8 or 9 years tops. And I was hatched from Mississippi Turkey Hunters page. I got on that page and pretty much everything, all my videos went through Mississippi Turkey Hunters.
Right.
And and when I said what the hook gonna be, it kind of everybody was like, what the hook gonna be? Everybody that grabbed a bird, what the hook gonna be? And it kind of went, you know, and everyone was saying it. And I started doing videos because I've been fortunate. I've killed some really big hooks over the years. And when I'd kill my birds, I'd get on there and I said, I got you birds, Ball. Come get me rejects. And come get me rejects. It's been going on for years and years. Mm-hmm. And just started, I was having fun on social media, just having fun. And like I say, I was hatched from Mississippi Turkey Hunters page. And that was my home for many years. And it's still, I consider it my home. And we parted ways because they got a lot of new people in there that didn't see eye to eye with me. But it used to be fun.
Well, that's one of the reasons we wanted you on tonight because, you know, your I call it comedy. I don't know what you call it. That for lack of a better word for your videos. You know, I don't know. Some people love it. Some people don't know how to take it. And that's why I want them to hear your story. And, you know, that's not you in those videos. That's a video. That's
right. You know, it's a persona. It's a persona.
There you go.
And have I lived that life? Oh yeah, I lived that life. I killed more turkeys than the plague back in the day. But that was back when, if you saw a turkey hunter, it was probably my uncles or my dads. That's probably who it was. Nobody turkey hunted in the late 70s and the early 80s. You didn't see no one in the woods. If you did, there was kin folks. And you had so many turkeys to hunt. You didn't have to travel to hunt. I mean, you hunted from your backyard. Every woodlot held turkeys back in the 80s, the heyday of the 80s. You know why? Because turkeys, look, they're nomadic. They need to move around. Through the seasons, they need to move around to find their needs. Of course, they need roost trees, and they had that. But spring and summer months, they need to be around hay fields. They need to find insects were a big diet back then in the hay fields. And as the Bahia grass, I mean wheat, they'd turn their old head sideways and they would strip that old Bahia grass and wheat. They would strip them seeds. They'd hang around through the spring and summer around fields as long as there was a water source. But as soon as October arrived and those first water oak acorns started falling, they would transfer to them old birds, them old gobblers, hens. They would head for the swamps, and they would. Their diet consists of not only water oaks, red oaks. Mass crops. They were falling, so the turkeys they spend their fall and winter months in them swamps along them creek bottoms. They had plenty of food. That was their buffet. So let's face it, me and you, if we get hungry, we can go to a buffet and we can get anything and everything we want. If we want to order banana pudding, we'll eat that. If we want to order a steak, we'll eat that. Turkeys' needs are different. They can't run out there to the buffet. They got to be in an area where mass crops, for example, in the fall and winter months, that's their diet. Spring and summer months, insects. I mean, they're foraging around on a Bahia grass and whatever types of grass. When you see that turkey turn his head sideways and strip that wheat, he's getting a lot of wheat by pulling his beak up. I mean, I've sit there and watched them. I followed the turkeys around all my life. I've seen what they need to survive. I've lived through the heyday of the 80s, and I've watched the terrain. And as the terrain changes, that changes the turkeys. They need to move around. And if a turkey, he's nomadic, if he can't move around and find all of his needs, guess what? That's a recipe for disaster. And it usually means you just cut 3,000 acres at once, and they're fixing to be funneled down to small areas of good habitat that they can thrive in. But also, all the predators know this. So what are they going to do? They're going to be funneled down to those smaller areas of suitable habitat. And the turkeys, within 2 years, they're gone. They're dead because it's too easy pickings for the coyote, bobcat, etc., all the predators. Well, it ain't rocket science.
No, it's
not. You don't need a
not.
biologist to tell you this.
Those hardwoods, me and you, maybe Dustin over here too, remembers when we was kids, they gone. They pine trees. Everything's pine trees. Alabama, you get here south all the way to the coast. Ain't nothing but pine trees no more. Very few big, hardwood bottoms and oak flats and ridges left anymore. I mean, I think that's just what you said. That habitat, the birds got to have it. They ain't a whole lot to eat in a pine, in a pine forest. They'll live there, but they gonna move and find find what they need. And if they don't do that, just like you said, then they're going to die. They'll either starve to death, or the coyotes and the foxes and bobcats going to eat them.
Predators are going to move in, for easy pickings, because you can't funnel birds down. And people ask me often, they said, what can we do to enhance the properties? And I tell them, I say, first of all, the government's not going to impose any stipulations on the timber companies. So let's go to the private sector. Okay, the private sector, you can do what you want to. You got a creek running through your property. Instead of leaving 25, 30 feet on each side of the creek, which is a recipe for disaster, because the first floods that come, the floods are going to uproot those few trees you left along sides of the SMZs, and it's a recipe for disaster. Those trees are going to end up in the creek within 3 years.
Oh, yeah. If the flood don't get them, the wind will, because ain't nothing to break erosion. It off of them.
I mean, right. What we need to do, and it would be a great, great benefit for the wild turkey, we need to give back of the government, and we depend on the government. The government's not going to intervene until an animal is on the brink of extinction. That's the only way the government will ever intervene, is if an animal is on the brink of extinction. But if the government would compensate these large landowners and say, hey, we're going to pay you for this. If you will leave 50 yards on each side of the creek, 50 yards that's a lot. You get 100 yards, 50 yards on each side. That is a travel corridor the turkeys can use, and they're not funneled down to just one little 30-foot area where the coyotes can pounce on them or whatever, bobcats or whatever. You leave 50 yards on each side of the creek, and you do that with timber companies, they're going to cut, they're going to keep cutting. But just say every 12, 15 years when it's time to cut the timber again, the government needs to say, okay, here we go again. you're leaving 50 yards on each side of the creek. We're going to compensate you for this. You start compensating these large landowners, they're more inclined to leave 50 yards on each side of the creek. It ain't rocket science. And that gives these turkeys a corridor, a natural corridor to go where they need to go during the day, and they're not funneled down with that 30 feet on each side of a creek, because that's a recipe for disaster.
Oh, I agree. And that's what timber companies are, they're there to make money. I understand. And that I think that's a great idea. It's got, of course you're dealing with the government, so that's a whole different story. But,
Yep.
If they can get paid for that amount of trees they're not cutting.
Yes.
I think they'd probably be right along with it and, and do that.
Until the day comes when they are compensated, they're not going to be inclined. I mean, they're not going to go out and leave all this timber along the creeks, 50 yards on each side of the creek, unless they're compensated. Right. And I don't blame them. I mean, you look at it from their aspect. They're trying to make money.
Yeah.
But if the government would help out just a little, if we would, us as hunters, we gonna spend the money. We'll spend it. If you have to bump up our license another 30, 40, 50 bucks, if they're going to leave, if the private sector would leave 50 yards on each side of the creeks, we would do it. You know why? Because the next property over is probably going to be ours. And if those turkeys, the populations explode on that piece of property, it's going to carry over to the next property.
That's right.
It ain't rocket science. None of it's rocket science. You just have to live through all this. And I've seen the heyday of the 80s, and I know what they need. But if they would just listen, I spoke with our turkey biologist. I spoke with him for over an hour about two months ago, and he told me, he said, Carl Ray, everything you say I could put in a book. He said, but it's not all in our hands. Like, it's not all up to us. We want to blame the biologist. The biologists, what's their job? They're going to do controls studies. They govern huge expansions of national forest land. Well, the studies. How long are they going to study before they give us an exact reason to the declining population of turkeys? They're not, because they can't do that, because there's not one deciding factor. Not one. It's not raccoons only.
Oh, no.
It's humans. And the ever-changing environment, if you would leave stuff alone, if humans would leave stuff alone, everything would go back to normal. But we can't leave it alone because the population is growing. Human population is growing at such a rapid rate. We're steadily cutting down all these woods to make shopping malls. We got to get new subdivisions. It's a recipe for disaster, but I do believe the private sector is the way to go. If we would get these big landowners, inform them and say, look, let's do this for the wild turkey. And if the government would step in and say, okay, we're going to reimburse you. You're not going to lose any money by leaving these 50 yards on each side of the creek, for example. If you would do that, that's going to encourage these private sector to do more.
We just got to get them to do it. That's the problem. That's the problem. Yep. They'll spend money on everything in the world, teaching people to dance in another country, but they ain't going to pay a landowner a minuscule amount compared to what they waste to enhance the habitat a little bit. And like you said, the timber companies, that's how they make money, cutting trees. And if they,
right
now, if they compensated for that tree, they'll leave it, or they, or a landowner. If I ain't no big landowner. I got a little old, 40-acre tract. Of course, I ain't never going to cut it. That's where my turkeys sleep at, Where if they'll get over there,
exactly.
I'm not going to do it, but I'm going to be dead one of these days. The land's mine right now. I don't know what it'll be 50 years from now. Who will own it? Maybe one of my kids,
Right.
maybe not. But you know,
everybody, I don't know if I told you this, but I took over as chapter president of the NWTF chapter in Clark County in Bossburg where I hunt. The NWTF called us and they said, they asked if we would meet with them. So I met with them and I said, yeah, I'll take over the chapter. And so I took over the chapter, and that year we raised good money, more than the years previous. We raised good money. Well, the guy that I was speaking with, Johnny McKinnon, he said, Carl Ray, he said, let's get you over the Jones County chapter next year. He said, we did good. I never heard from him. A year passed, I called him and I said, what's the deal? He said, well, after that banquet, the bigwigs of the NWTF called me and said, to get you out of there, you cannot represent the NWTF because of your videos. I want to ask y'all this. I want to ask you this. What does it matter who raises the money? As long as the monies come in and are generated for a good purpose and a good cause, what does it matter if a do-gooder raises the money or Carl Ray raises the money?
It shouldn't matter, but
and that's just the way society is. They looking
at it like a corporation looks at crap. In my opinion.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
The members of that chapter you were over, it didn't bother them. It didn't bother the people that donated all the money. Your videos didn't bother them.
No.
It bothered somebody somewhere up the chain.
And I can tell you this. At the end of the day, the money's going to the same place. It's going to the same place. What should it matter if Carl Ray raises the money or a golfer raises the money? What should it matter?
It should.
The money's going to the same place. And the world we're living in, they are so picky and they're so worried about what others think. Well, we can't have him as chapter president. Well, listen, and I'm thinking...
Listen, your videos, to me, are very similar to the OTK and Mike videos of the 80s. You know what I'm saying? Yep. They out there shooting them in the gut and, making fun and pretending they slipping across lines and covering up scrapes, or whatever, cutting down rub trees. And so
right.
There ain't nobody ever went against them. So I don't understand it. I mean, it's just, it's people that don't, they're not happy people. I guess that's what they always looking for something to gripe about.
Well, at the end of the day, they don't want a person like Carl Ray to be, they call me a influencer. Okay. I play there's a persona. Now I was bad news, and everybody knows I was bad news back in my day. I was going to kill my birds. I mean, I've lived for it, and I've always killed birds. But when I saw the decline in turkey populations, I don't kill over the limit no more. I don't do that. I try to find an old bird if I can, and I can't tell you for exact science if he's got 1.5 spurs, but if I pass by him and he throws his strut down and he's wanting to strut, but he can't help it. When he sees that car go by, he throws that strut straight down and he throws that neck up, long necking, and he throw that strut up just a minute and he throws it right back down. I've been around long enough to know that ain't a 2-year-old. But if I got 3 birds dancing circles around there doing moons and they just spinning around and they all together right next to each other, touching each other, I've been around long enough to know that's 2-year-olds. And people ask all the time, how do you know it's an old bird? Well, he's by himself for once. He's by himself this day and time. I'm not saying that back in the day you didn't have some old birds running together, because they did, because there was such an abundance of birds, they had no choice. You had your subordinate gobblers, and he might have 1.25 spurs, and the big bird might have 1.5 spurs, and they'd run together because, I mean, even that's just the way it was. But now day and time, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, you see 3 birds dancing around circles out here in South Mississippi in a cutover, and they all strutting beside each other, happy, high-fiving each other. That's 2-year-olds. You get an old bird, you pass by him, and he'll throw that strut down. Do you pass by? Then you'll see it go back up. But he's wanting to strut, but he's wanting a long neck and look at the same time, and he's real nervous. That's the bird Carl Ray wants to kill.
I think that's the one we all want to kill. But if that 2-year-old for me's in the wrong spot, he's pretending to be that 3-4-year-old turkey, and that's the only one around. Oh, Anthony's going to put some lead, or I guess TSS. That's what I shoot now. His way, and he's going for a ride.
He's going to get the smoke.
Yeah, but like you
exactly,
and you know, all the game and fish departments have made adjustments for good, for bad. I don't know. I like what Mississippi's done over there by not changing their season. And I kind of like what they did over there with not allowing out-of-staters in. What is it, the first week or two or something like that?
Right, it is. A couple of weeks.
Yeah. I like some of the things they do, and I like that biologist. I've heard him a couple times on other shows. What's his name? Adam Butler? Yes, Adam Butler.
Let me tell you something. I spoke with him for over an hour, and he won't admit to it probably, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you, he called me and we talked, and he really cares about the wild turkey. Like, that's his life goal. Mm-hmm. I can talk to someone, and I can pretty much read people right off the bat, and I can read them. He wants Mississippi to be known as the restoration state. Even though our populations, they're not hurting, he wants us to be the greatest success story in the U.S. Like, he wants us to bring it back to astronomical proportions. Adam Butler, he does his job.
Oh,
he's
yeah,
still a game warden. He's still a game warden, and he let me know real quick. He's still a game warden,
mm-hmm.
and you know, in whose side he's on. But we spoke, you know, and he told me, he said, "Look, Carl Ray," he said, "everything you say, I could put in a book." He said, "Everything you say, I agree with. I was a turkey hunter before I was the turkey biologist for the state." Good guy.
No, he's a super good guy. I respect everything that man said. I've listened to some of his theories on decline. Some of it's totally different than what everybody's talking about. Nobody knows, like you said before, but I really like what he's talked about, and actually put a lot of stock. I'll listen to him before I listen to the ones over here.
Yes,
I just
and that's what I tell people. I can read people. That's what I tell them. I said, y'all listen to this guy, and I've studied the Meleagris gallipovo-silvestris. I've studied the eastern wild turkey my whole life. I've followed them around through the spring and summer months as a child. I knew what they needed. I knew what their needs were, and I followed them around through the fall and winter months, and I seen what they did, and I saw how the large groups of around September, September to 1st of October, I saw the large groups of family flocks of hens and poults. They would get together and they would form huge flocks. And I would see them run the jakes off as October, November rolled around, because the jakes, all they did was fight, and they were causing attention to the flock. And that's why you saw a lot of jakes together, because the flocks pretty much run them off, because all they do is fight and draw attention. But I studied the birds, and Adam, he knows this. And after speaking with him for a while, I realized really quick this guy really cares about the population, and he gets it. This guy gets it, and he wants to do something, but he's still a game warden. And the game wardens are so mad. They are so mad, but because they can't. They don't realize I play a persona, and yeah, I used to be bad news on a turkey. I was bad news on a turkey back in the day. But turkeys were plentiful back in the day. I could do what I wanted to. If I wanted to kill 3 or 4 turkeys off of one property, you still got 10, 12 gobblers around. But this day and time, I'll kill my limit. I mean, I'm not after the numbers. It's not a numbers game anymore. It's after them hooks. Mm-hmm. And I was smart enough to adapt to that and say, hey, and I can tell you right now, one of the worst things that's as far as turkey numbers declining, feeders. All these rejects, I'm not going to say rejects. Let me take that back. Let me retract that. All the people who haven't hunted their whole lives, maybe they didn't have a father figure. They want to hunt. What do they know? They know that they deer hunt over a feeder, so they go sit over that feeder. You can wipe out total populations of mature gobblers. If you got 5, 6 gobblers on your property, let's face it, the gobblers might not be eaten after the first week of season, first 2 weeks, but those hens, they're going to hang around those feeders, and those gobblers are going to come up there to strut, and they're going to stay local. The gobblers are going to stay near the feeders within shooting range, and you can wipe out all your mature birds like that. The feeders, I mean, I don't think you should be able to put feed in a feeder during turkey season and be within I mean, you don't need to be around it.
Now you can't. I know you can't do that in Alabama. No. I mean, you can't even have it on your property if you're going to turkey. I don't care if you own 10,000 acres. If you got one feeder out on it, you can't hunt that property. Over here,
well, I don't
know
how
different. It is now. You can feed.
I think
if you don't
different.
Turkey hunt, you can leave your feeders out, running your corn or your protein pellets or whatever it is for your deer, but not over here. I mean, I'm sure it goes on, but everybody, everybody, there's outlaws everywhere.
When you have, believe me, I know I was him. Like I was bad news back in the day. There's no way I would ever tell anybody how many turkeys I've killed ever, or deer. But like I say, I live for it. But back then, there was very few turkey hunters, and I wasn't putting a dent or a hurt in the population. When I saw the decline in turkey populations, I knew to back off. And I'm quite content with killing my 3 birds. If I kill 3 birds, I'm good. But I try to move around and try to target an older bird. And when I say an older bird, it might only be a 3-year-old, who's to say? But 3-year-olds act different than a 2-year-old. 2-year-olds like to run in groups. They're like teenagers. That's how I like to describe them, as teenagers. They stay together. They tolerate each other. And people often say, well, them birds, they're going to come in and they're going to fight. I'm here to tell you, they've established dominance back in deer season. All that fighting you see in deer season, them birds know who the dominant bird is before turkey season. You don't see a lot of fighting between gobblers in turkey season because they've already established dominance here in Mississippi.
Yeah. Well,
and it's just the little things you pick up on by being in the deer woods, squirrel hunting. You see all this. You learn the terrain. You learn woodsmanship, and woodsmanship is 90% of it.
Oh, I agree.
Anybody can make a call. Anybody can pick up a call, and if you're where that turkey wants to be, if you're where the hens have been before, where they're scratching, you get there before daylight. That turkey gobbles. he might be a 500 yards away, but you're in a good spot because you see all them circular patterns. That's where them hens have been. And guess what? You can bet your britches he's been there before too. He knows where they want to be. You be where that turkey wants to be, where he's been before, where he's comfortable being. Your chances will go up. Your success rate will improve 95%.
Well, now we've been talking a good bit. Let's look at the future. Where do you see hunting in general, not just turkey hunting, deer hunting? Well, squirrels, they ain't many squirrel hunters left no more, but 10, 15, 20, 30 years down the road, what do you see? How do you see us changing? Or do you?
Man, the world is changing so fast, and they're putting up solar panels on thousands of acres. It's hard to say what's going on because everything that I know, I mean, within a year's time, they could devastate 2,000 acres and have a solar farm. It's hard to say, but I will say this. Government lands, we need to enhance those government lands. Now, I spoke with the guy that's over the Soda National Forest. It's behind my home, and it's the largest forest in the state of Mississippi, National Forest.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes all the way to the coast.
Yep.
And I asked him, I said, why can't you go in there? Why can't you go in there and cut down some of those gallberries and let's create a natural corridor, a travel corridor, and let's get turkeys back in here so they won't have to follow the creek bottoms, the stream bottoms. There ain't that many creeks down here. He told me, and this guy, he has worked with the Forestry Commission all his life. He told me, he said, Carl Ray, he said, look, if it was up to me, I'd go in there. I'm in charge of clearing. He said, if it was up to me, I'd go in there and do it. He said, but before we can even put a piece of equipment on the Soda National Forest, we must first contact every tribe, all the Indian tribes that are indigenous to this the state of in this area. We got to contact all these tribes. We got to contact the biologists and everything from the hognose snake to the indigo bunting to the prothonotary warbler. All these birds that are indigenous to this area, well, once we cut down this vegetation or whatever we need to do, is this going to affect this animal? Is it going to affect this animal? I mean, and I got to thinking, I said, this guy's right. We want to, as turkey hunters, we know what we need to do. We need to create diverse habitat and create openings. But he's right. What are we affecting? What type of woodpeckers are we affecting? What indigo buntings, prothonotary warblers, what all are we destroying by doing that and cutting this underbrush? And it made sense. But what can you do about that? There's nothing you can do because you can enhance turkey habitat, but to what avail? Because down here you have gopher tortoise, and let's face it, they are on the brink of extinction. I'm not going to say extinction, but they're endangered. They're endangered. You don't go and mess with a gopher tortoise, and they are DeSoto National Forest. That's their home. You got to first send biologists in, and they got to study, and they got to find out where these turtles are going, and you don't want to go in there and dozer up one of their holes, one of their dens, because these birds, even though these turtles are prehistoric and they have lived for centuries and centuries, you go in there and you start dozering up their natural habitat and caving in their homes, that's a recipe for disaster for them too. So I got the gist of it once he told me that.
You don't want to pay to have those moved, trust me. It's expensive.
No.
We ran into that on a hurricane. So
Dustin does a lot Dustin works a lot of disasters, clearing trees and opening up streams and stuff after hurricanes and all that kind of stuff. So they've been in it from the turtles all the way to bald eagles. So,
Yeah. We've dealt with a bunch of it.
there's a lot of red tape. You're right. I mean, and everything, and it all goes back to what you said a long time ago. Everything man touches, we've pretty much kind of messed up the natural order of things. Now we got to do,
and that's
we got to do some of it, or we're not going to be here.
Yeah.
But
no, and that starts from the beginning. As the French settlers come over, I mean, we brought disease. We wiped out Indian tribes. I mean, almost to the brink of extinction. Man is the enemy. By the 1890s, look, by the turn of the century, I mean, over hunting the wild turkey, I mean, because let's face it, what were we doing with the meat? We were providing for our families. Then you had market hunters that were selling the meat, unregulated killing of all these game birds. It brought it almost to the brink of extinction. And the wild turkey, that's the greatest, in my opinion, that's the greatest success story there ever was. And the NWTF, they played a huge role in that. They were established in 1973, and they played a huge role in the restoration of the wild turkey. Well, what do they do now? I don't see that much anymore. And I was chapter president. So I had to answer questions. So when people they asked me, they said, Carl Ray, where does this money go? I had to tell them that little small percentage stayed within the state. All the other revenue generated went toward other states. And they asked me why. And I said, because the NWTF does not own any land in the state of Mississippi. How can we govern land that we don't own?
That's true.
And it made sense.
That's why they do give so much to these state agencies, because the state does control some land, the management areas, the national forest, and that kind of thing. So I get aggravated sometimes when I hear, they got this longleaf project going on somewhere, but it's always seemed to be on a management area or a national forest somewhere. They're doing their habitat work, but that's really the only place in a lot of states they can go in kind of with a free hand, because the state, of course, all states are going to be greedy and get that money if they can and get something.
Right.
And it does help. I'm not saying that, but I'd like to see all of them. And I'm a member. I'm a member of the NWTF. I'm a member of TFT.
Oh, I'll always be. I'll always be a member because I was chapter president. I'll always be a member because they're trying to do right, but their hands are tied. I think
if they came to maybe put a program out there, whoever it is, to private landowners, and I'm sure they do it with some big timber companies, but the little guy like me, my little 40 acres, I'm not restoring the wild turkey on 40 acres. I'm going to do my part, and that's all I study down there. I've made my openings, and I'm trying to get that land back the way it should be. Is that going to make a difference? Maybe 2 or 3 turkeys here and there, but it's not going to bring back the numbers. I don't know if we'll ever see what we saw back in the heyday. It's just too much has changed. It's that time's come and went, but we can get our numbers back to a reasonable amount.
Right.
But if they would come and do some kind of programs where I could apply for a grant to come in there and do some kind of improvement, help me. I can't afford to pay a fire company to come in and burn my land. I can't afford to have that guy come in and run that fire break a mile around that 40 acres, because that's about what it is, about a mile. And then bring over here. I can't myself burn it. I have to have a company that specializes in that come in and do it. So, and that's expensive. It's I'd have it. It'd be burnt to a crisp today and thinned down if I could afford it. I just have to do what I can when I can. But if they had some funds available for us smaller people, I believe we'd take advantage of it. I know I would. So.
Yes. because at the end of the day, it's going to affect everyone.
Yeah, sure.
Because
I mean, if I add 5 turkeys to the population, and the next guy with 40 acres adds 5, and the next guy with 1,000 adds 100, before long you've brought it back. You've got it back to something to be proud of anyway. So
yes, but the main deal is, the main problem is the private sector. The private sector, that's where it's at. I mean,
oh yeah.
And we think because we only own 40 acres, we don't contribute. I don't know about your 40 acres, but if I own 40 acres of hardwoods on a creek, on a river, on a creek, and it's mass crops for days during the fall and winter months, you're providing those turkeys food, and you're providing them roosting areas along the creeks, and you're providing them food so it can sustain their bodies throughout the fall and winter months. Okay, then your neighbor down the road, it might be a mile away, he's got hay fields, he's got upland territory, he's got cutovers, fresh cutovers that are upland that never floods. Well, what's he providing? He's providing nesting, prime nesting for the hens, because let's face it, hens are not going to nest in low-lying areas because of flooding. That's just the way that's just the way they are. But together, you got your 40 acres, your neighbor a mile away or half a mile away or 3/4 of a mile away, he's got all his upland hay fields. If he will not cut them hay fields, let it go on to June the 15th before he cuts them hay fields. Okay, what does that do? One, you got 40 acres of mass crops along the creeks, along the streams and the creeks. Well, it might be a river. Those turkeys are going to hang out there all fall and winter, and they're going to fatten up on those mass crops. Come spring, the hens are going to leave out of that swamp. They're headed up to the pasture land. Of that farmer's not cutting them hay fields, and you got good nesting and brooding areas where those poults, when they're hatched, as well as I do, they don't sit around waiting. All those eggs, they hatch within an hour or so. And if they don't, the hen will leave because of the ants and the varmints and the predators. Okay, those poults, when they hatch in them hay fields, for example, they got a little understory up above them, and they got and down below they can look for insects. 90% of their diet is insects, a poult, and they're looking around. They got a little. Above them, they got grasses, but it's not really thick below, so they can look for insects. That diverse habitat is what they need. You are providing the 40 acres of mass crops through the fall and winter months, and your neighbor a mile away, he's got the upland areas, and he's providing the nesting areas. It's just a good recipe.
It is. Well, look. We're running on here for about an hour and a half, and I don't want to keep you all night. And Dustin's he's got nearly an hour ride back to his house. He rides over here and records with me. But tell everybody where they can come if they want to see you, see some of your content you put out. What social media platforms are you on? I guess about everything.
Well,
from what I've seen.
Yeah. I pretty much, my page is exploded to 18,000 followers. And I pretty much just do my own thing on my own page now. And on Facebook. On Facebook. And
they just type in your name and it'll take you right over there.
Yes, Carl Ray Hollifield.
Are you on TikTok or any of that? Yes,
I have a TikTok, but it's I just got on it a while back. But my Facebook, pretty much, we cover a lot of topics, and we go over things and discuss hunting just on my personal page, Carl Ray Hollifield.
Okay, all right, well, good deal. I'll put all that in our notes too for anybody listening. But I'll get you your Facebook link, and I'll put it on there, and they can just click on it, go straight to you. But they can search it out too. But
and your TikTok is Turkey Hunt 1974.
Yeah, and my TikTok account is Turkey Hunt 1974.
Okay, perfect. Well, we appreciate you, Carl Ray. I hope this has opened a lot of eyes to see that you're not the persona you play. You're a good man that cares about the wildlife.
Oh yeah. Yeah, because it's up to us in the private sector. If we don't care about it, I mean, it's gonna meet it. The turkey will meet his demise if the private sector does not step up. We, as the private sector, like you say, you got 40 acres. That's good. Mm-hmm. If you got creek bottoms and mass crops, then your neighbors got these nesting areas. You got to fly. Okay, that's what I tell everybody. People often, they ask me, they say, Carl Ray, what do I do? I got 50 acres of hardwoods, beautiful hardwoods, and I used to have all these birds in there. And I have birds in there every fall and winter. All deer season, I have gobblers in there. And I tell them, I said, look, hens are not going to nest in low-lying areas. They're going to move upland and nest. I said, you're doing a good thing by leaving those mass crops because you're providing that buffet that the turkeys need to survive throughout the fall and winter months. And, the turkeys, the hens, as they move out and go to nesting areas, they're going to move upland. I said, you're still doing a good thing. You're doing your part. And that's all you can do. But it's going to take the private sector working together as one. And like I say, it's going to take the government to intervene sooner or later. And let's reimburse these farmers for the hay that they lost by not cutting the hay fields till June the 15th. Let's reimburse them for that one hay cutting or two hay cuttings. Let's reimburse them and get them to leave a further distance on these streamside areas, SMZs. That's what it's going to take. But in my experience, the government has never stepped in until an animal is on the brink of extinction, like the pileated woodpecker. The pileated woodpecker, it was too late by the time they intervened. I mean, they were almost gone, and they tried to get They tried to buy up the large tract in Louisiana. They tried to buy that large tract where the last two mating couples were found, but it was too late. A few weeks later, they cut that tract, and that was it. I mean, don't wait till it's too late. The private sector, we have a choice. We can enhance turkey populations by doing what we do. Even though we own 20, 30, 40 acres, provide what they need that time of year that they need that, because they can't go to the buffet to get what they need.
That's right. 100% right. Well, look,
but
we appreciate you, and we appreciate you coming. Hopefully you'll come back. We'll talk even more.
Oh yeah. We'll definitely do another one, and we'll keep it going, and I appreciate y'all contacting me, and anything I can do, y'all just give me a call. But like I say, the persona I play, like I say, don't people just fall into that, and just like soap operas and everything else, they fall into it and they say, this guy's evil, we need to get rid of him and everything else. But if you would just sit down and let me talk to you for a few minutes, and you'd realize, y'all would realize within 5 minutes the love I have for the eastern wild turkey.
Well, I think anybody that's listened to this podcast is going to see that. They're going to see not just the wild turkey. You love all of it, just from the doves to the squirrels to the deer
to the heritage of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So no.
Yeah, it's all about our culture.
That's right.
It's all about our culture and the way we were raised, and those getting those young kids out there. And like I say, me and you, we've all three of us, we've seen the heyday of the 80s, and we've seen what it was like. But to these young kids, this is their heyday right here. We got to get them out there. And when they hear that first thunderous gobble on opening day and you see that fire in their eyes, that, my friend, that can't be bought.
That's right. That's right. And it's up to us.
Yep.
Right.
And that's how we're going to carry on this tradition of to make sure our great grandkids get to experience the thunderous gobble. We're going to have to get the private sector. That's where it's at. Well, just do your part. Do your part on your 40 acres. I mean, that's what it's going to take.
Yep. Well, all right, Carl Ray. I want to call you Carl. I'm trying to get that Carl Ray in there, but
yeah, Carl Ray. Yeah, that's good.
But like I said, we sure appreciate you being on, and we'll have you back for sure. I'm sure everybody's going to really enjoy this. And,
yes, I appreciate y'all, and like I say, y'all need anything, call me. We'll be here on 108 Triangle Drive. We'll be sitting here in poverty. It ain't poverty, is it, baby? But no, I'm just joking. But like I say, we appreciate y'all, and appreciate. All right.
All right. Thank you so much, Carl Ray.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Holler at me anytime.
I will.
All right.
All right.
Bye-bye.
What do you think?
Well, it was informative.
Very informative, and not anything like I thought it would go.
No.
Once again, those preconceived notions, if you know somebody just by the role they play, whether it be on a TikTok video or a TV sitcom, that's not them people.
Right.
Even though that might be all you ever see. And that's why I wanted to do this tonight. Maybe people see that other side, because I know Carl Ray has been known to be controversial, and that's a play personality. It's not
right.
It's not him. You can tell.
Well, I would definitely say he's a family man. I can take that out of it. He knows the stuff when it comes to the wild turkey, where they live, where they like to be.
You want to give me that scientific name for the eastern wild turkey he rattled off real quick?
I can never say it.
I can't either.
I'm not.
I knew exactly what he meant and what he was saying, but I can't never say it.
Well, it hit me with that hook, and I was like, "What?"
Yeah. So, well, good deal.
I enjoyed this one.
I did too. It was a good one, and we got a bunch more good ones lined up and coming. So, you guys hang with us. I know it's summertime, and we're still kind of talking turkey here and there. And listen, that's what we do.
Make sure you put the Deer Expo on your calendar.
Put it on the calendar. Come look us up. Let us know. We'll be hanging around the Legacy Premium Game Calls booth. They're right there in the door where you turn your ticket in. Holler at us. If we ain't there, we'll probably be in the very back at Hunter's All Game booth. He's in the very back. He's in like the back room of the downstairs. So
come by. We'd love to meet and greet.
Love to. Never know. I'm always amazed when people do walk up and say, "Hey, I know who you are." So yeah. Well, anyway, I guess if you ain't got nothing else, I guess we'll see everybody in about a week. And remember, take care of your trees, because that's where the turkeys sleep.
Got that gauge show, like McGregor in the garden. These turkeys calling Trump, trying to get him a pardon. Sitting at the camp, sipping wild turkey straight. Just dumped 600 crickets. What you know about that bait? Osceolas and ghouls, and Rio Grandes, Easter Marians. I keep that gauge in my hands. In a swamp, bottom pine tree or up in midair. I'm Jake's boogeyman, a time's worst nightmare. I put on some treason, looks good for the funeral. Some might find that sad, some might find that humorous. 3-mile walk, done gone on a journey. He's over the hollow, old strutting jive turkey. You still on the roost, I'm slipping through that timber. Them tricks you pull that spring, boy, I still remember. Eyes like an eagle, they can hear a mile away. If them birds could smell, there never be no foul play. I ain't waiting on time, I'm about to go meet him. No foul play, he ain't gon' like how needing for breeding. Gonna be his demise, cause I'ma dunk that pump right between them eyes. I can taste that butterball, he already cooking. I'm statue still, he ain't gonna catch me looking. Showing off with them girls, done got you all struck. Now you and your opponent in the bed of my truck. Got that cage show, like McGregor in the garden. These turkeys calling Trump, trying to get him a pardon. Sitting at the camp, sipping wild turkey straight. Just up 600 crickets. What you know about that bait? Osceolas and ghouls, and Rio Grandes, Easter Marians. I keep that gauge in my hands. In a swamp, bottom pine tree or up in midair. I'm Jake's boogeyman, a time's worst nightmare. In them Vosburg hills, deep in them hollers, or up in Union Springs with them Clearview ballers. Sitting here with my gun on my knees, peeping every step he takes, passing through them trees. He ain't cock-a-doodle doing, he's strutting and gobbling, coming through them woods like Batman and Robin. Flexing full strut, beard dragging the ground. 18 feathers in God's country, it's about to go down. Snoot on Viagra, swole like some ticks. He in trouble today, cause I done learned some tricks. Got that quarter speaker playing at 50 yards away. Got that turkey calling nap, let's call it foul play. Hunting Jimmy's crack corn, and I don't care. About to bust them jelly heads, you know the spring is in the air. Cross 6 at the barbed wire on a 5-mile track. Had my girl pick me up with 2 of your birds on my back. Got that cage show, like McGregor in the garden. These turkeys calling Trump, trying to get him a pardon. Sitting at the camp, sipping wild turkey straight. Just up 600 crickets. What you know about that bait? Osceolas and ghouls, and Rio Grandes, Easter Marians. I keep that gauge in my hands. In a swamp, bottom pine tree or up in midair. I'm Jake's boogeyman, a time's worst nightmare. I got 6 at 50, 2 in the tree. Carl Holyfield yelling what the hook gon' be. Got Fu Manchus and Wolfman Jacks. Old 3-toe swamp rooster about to get whacked. Who you know covered 10 miles of them turkey grounds and walked out the woods and still gained 20 pounds. Full strutting, talking turkey, we stay tagged out. Come and get me rejects, you know what I'm about. Just call one up, this one ain't no faker. Birdzilla about to meet the wildlife widowmaker. He answered back, it wasn't running solo. OP, we busted him up in a buckskin polo. 4 gobblers, 2 Jakes, and 10 hens flocking. Them Allen and Norton boys keep them birds dropping. 10 steps, stand off, you took the wrong 10, homie. You're dead on my back, your girl's hanging out with Jody. Got that cage show, like McGregor in the garden. These turkeys calling Trump, trying to get him a pardon. Sitting at the camp, sipping wild turkey straight. Just up 600 crickets. What you know about that bait? Osceolas and ghouls, and Rio Grandes, Easter Marians. I keep that gauge in my hands. In a swamp, bottom pine tree or up in midair. I'm Jake's boogeyman,